Welcome to Milestone Moments, the show where we explore the journeys that lead to success. I'm Sheila Slick, your host and founder of 5 Milestones. In every episode, we will bring you insights from the minds of entrepreneurs, leaders, and experts who will share not just their expertise, but the milestone moments that have reshaped their journeys and led to significant achievements. So if you're looking for motivation, you're in the right place. Subscribe now and discover the milestones that mark the path to success. Welcome to another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. I'm Sheila Slick, your host, and today I have a very special guest, Kevin Eikenberry. Kevin is the Chief Potential Officer of the Kevin Eikenberry Group, a leadership and learning company based in Indianapolis, Indiana, with a team across the United States. He has spent over 30 years helping organizations and leaders in over 53 countries. Kevin believes that his new book, Flexible Leadership: Navigate Uncertainty and Lead with Confidence, is his best and most important work yet. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Sheila, thank you for having me. I'm ready to go. I'm sitting down.
Well, I love your title, Chief Potential Officer. It is quite distinctive in the leadership development space. I'd love to know what led you to this career path, and how does this unique title reflect your core philosophy on leadership?
Well, let's start with the second part first and go back to the beginning. So, Chief Potential Officer, I don't think it's not just distinctive. I've never met another one. Sheila, when it's your company, you can call yourself whatever you want. And I thought calling myself Chief Potential Officer was better than calling myself janitor, even though I have been known to do that too. So, in all seriousness, from a marketing perspective, I wanted to pick a title that would lead people to do exactly what you did, which was to ask about it. And if there weren't chief learning officers in the world, that's what it would have been. But since there are chief learning officers, and I wouldn't get that distinctiveness piece, that I was a chief potential officer because and it does inform. It is informed by my belief and what we are about in our business, and that is helping people reach their potential. And I believe that the potential that we have as humans, and then therefore that we have as organizations, is significantly greater than most of us ever achieve. And so I believe we are in the business of helping leaders become the leaders they were born to be, which means moving closer and closer to their potential. So how did I get into this business? Well, I got into this business because, the reason I'm still in this business after 30 plus years is that I'm doing the work I was put on the planet to do. I worked in corporate America. I grew up on a farm. We had a farm business, a couple of businesses related to agriculture. I went to college. I went into the workplace. As I went into the workplace, I'd always believed that, like you, would be in business for myself. But I worked in a very large organization for a number of years, had great opportunities there, learned a lot while I was at Chevron. But later in my time there, after starting in sales and marketing, I found my way I worked to get into the training and development part of the Chevron Corporation. And while I was there, I figured out that doing this work of helping people learn was something I was good at. And that I believed that that's where I needed to place myself in a business, was to do leadership, to do learning and development. And over time found that what I was really put on the planet to do was leadership development, because for two reasons. Number one, I wrote in one of my books, Sheila, that as we become better leaders, we become better humans, and vice versa. And I believe that that's true. And I found that what I was best at was helping people learn skills that applied both personally and professionally. And that is absolutely 100% true for us as leaders. And so, and then from a business side, the greatest leverage point for organizational growth is the success and the productivity and efficiency, effectiveness of leaders. And so leaders are ripples in ponds, right? And if we can get more leaders creating the same ripple, we can have huge impacts in our organizations. We can change the world. Better leaders are what it takes to change the world.
So, how long ago did you leave corporate, more or less? Are we talking
We're talking 32 years.
what changes do you see if you were training and developing leaders 30 years ago? A lot has evolved. What are
Well,
some
for one thing, we couldn't do this thing called Zoom that you and I are on right now. Like that certainly didn't exist. When I left Chevron and started my company, I think I had email, but I also had a fax machine. Let's just be clear. I had a fax machine. And like you sort of needed one. I don't know the last time I used a fax machine. Uh, that's obviously just a small part of what's changed in the world. So the way I like to think about this, Sheila, is that there's way more about leadership that hasn't changed than has, right? And yet what has changed, which is mostly context, is important. And we said this as when we started writing about leading at a distance before COVID, and we said that rule number one in our book, The Long Distance Leader, rule number one is think leadership first, location second. That there's way more about it that's the same than different, but what's different matters a lot. And that continues to be true, not just about where we work and when we work, but a whole bunch of other things as well. And so we need to not forget what we've long known about human beings, about human development, about human dynamics, about group dynamics, because those foundational things aren't really changing. And yet the context in which we work and lead has changed a lot. And we have to keep those things in mind. Yeah, they've changed a lot in 30 years, right?
Well, what about the different cultures? Because you have so many different countries in your bio.
Yeah.
Also.
There are a lot of people that are uh, more expert than I in the intricacies and the depth around the various cultures around the world. And yet we have had the chance to work with leaders from all over. And, one of the things that we've helped organizations with and individual leaders with is I may be in India, but my team, some are in India and some are in Indiana and some are in London and some are in Budapest and some are in, somewhere in Africa, right? They could be all over. And so how do we help people, yes, recognize cultural differences, but just work to build connections to and relationships with their teams, regardless of where they're located or what time zones they're in.
Yeah, that's very fascinating seeing your diverse background. So let's talk about your latest book, Flexible Leadership, which focuses on navigating uncertainty. And I think this is such an important topic right now because there's so much uncertainty because of all of these changes that are happening and they're happening quickly. How should we approach uncertainty today?
First thing is you're right. There is a lot of it, right? Whether you want to think about it from a technology perspective, want to think about it from a geopolitical perspective, what do you want to think about it from just a global perspective that things are more interconnected than ever, or whether you want to think about it from a where we're working, like the distance, remote, all that stuff. Like we could take any one of those things and say that work is more uncertain and complex than it's ever been. We got all those things happening at once. And so the first thing that we need to recognize that as human beings, as a starting point, our first reaction to uncertainty is mostly freeze, wait, be an ostrich, put our head in the sand, right? And while I think the waiting part for a bit is okay, like there's a lot to be said for a little pause. But beyond that, what we're trying to help people do is not to eliminate uncertainty because you can't do that, but how to navigate it, which means I'm not trying to get rid of it. I'm trying to say, in the face of it, how do I still move forward with some level of confidence? How can I help myself and then me as a leader help others to tread through it and do everything we can to improve our odds of success through it? And that's really what we're trying to do with this book. And the title, as you said, Navigate Uncertainties in the subtitle. The title is Flexible Leadership. And so the big idea here is that if we're leading the way we did 5 years ago, chances are your success is going down. It's not going up. It's not staying the same because the world is not the same. And so even if you were a pretty good leader 5 years ago, the trend of your success and effectiveness is not up 5 years later if you haven't changed, right? So how and in what ways do we need to flex and adapt as we move forward?
So give me one specific example, kind of like a teaser into the book of what you think is one of the ones that really sticks out that you want to highlight.
Before we can flex, we have to realize that flexing is valuable. And in order to realize that flexing is valuable, we have to get past the idea that there's right and wrong answers. We have to get past the idea that it's either this or it's this, but rather, so let's just take an example. Is leadership about outcomes? And many leaders, you would say, hey, they are results based. They're about the outcomes. They're about the result. Is that what leadership is about? Or is leadership about people or others, those that are doing the work? And all of you know, and you may identify yourself as being someone, I'm more of a people leader. And so most people would say, well, I'm either a results based, outcome based leader, or I'm a people or others based leader. And I would suggest to you that's a false question. That the answer isn't, should I be outcome based or others based, but rather, where should I lean on that? We call that a flexor. Which direction should I lean on that in this moment? Right? You might have a natural tendency that says, hey, I'm a little more people based, a little more results based. Fine. I don't mind. Knowing what your natural tendency is useful. Staying in that or saying, I am a results based leader means that you will have a very hard time flexing to anything else because you've identified yourself and part of your identity is being that. So one of the most important starting points for being a flexible leader is to recognize that in fact flexibility is valuable, and number two, that it means that we live in a both and world, not an either or world. So we could build a situation or a context where we would say, in this moment, I need to lean more toward people and less towards results. And other times, well, so I'll just take an example. So we have an event that we've done ever since COVID began. It's in the fall. It's called Virtual LeaderCon. So during that event, everyone on my team is very much during that week, very focused on all of the things that have to happen in order for us to make a great experience for all of the leaders around the world that join us and all of the guests that join us as a part of that. We are very results focused for that week. The next week, do I keep my foot on the accelerator of the team? Do I push them in the same sorts of ways that I did that week, the next week, and 2 weeks and 3 weeks later? Maybe not. And if I did, the question would be, would that be in the team and even my best interest? I would say perhaps not. Let's say that you have a team member who is had a catastrophic event happen in their life. In that moment, in that window of time, in that season, wouldn't you be likely more effective if you leaned more in the direction of the people and the relationship and their needs and being empathetic with them and a little less on results for right now? I would suggest yes. Regardless of which of those was your natural tendency, what does context tell me about where I should be leaning right now? That's the crux of being a flexible leader.
Love that. So you have a podcast, you have a YouTube channel,
I do.
you're an author. Tell us a little bit about all the different spaces or how you serve your clients.
Well, if you can figure out or remember how to spell my name, Kevin Eikenberry, Eikenberry, I promise you can find me online, whether it's on LinkedIn, where we publish a newsletter, whether it's on our website, kevineikenberry.com, whether it's on our podcast, the Remarkable Leadership Podcast, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's on our YouTube channel, whether it's on Amazon, where you can find all those books. We're in the business of helping leaders get better so the world can be a better place. And so, as you said, there's lots of ways in which we've had the good fortune to be able to do that. If you or your organization uses LinkedIn Learning as a part of your learning process, I've authored a number of courses there as well. So we're lots of places. We work with organizations and we work with individual leaders in person, face to face, as well as virtually. So we are in the business of helping leaders be more effective to make the world a better place, and we try to be as many places as we can to make that happen.
So, looking ahead, what emerging leadership challenges do you believe will define the next decade? And if you could give one piece of advice to anyone listening to this episode today, so that they can better prepare for it now.
Well, the easy answer is leaders need to be more flexible in a world that's continuing to be more uncertain and complex. And I can say that teasing a little, but it's honest. It's my honest truth that the future of work is changing. The future of where we work, how work is interconnected, the complexity of the people doing the work, all of that is coming, is here and is coming. And that means that we as leaders must become more flexible, not in our principles or values. Those things need to be rock solid. They need to be rooted like a tree, but in how we lead, the approaches that we take on a context by context, day by day, project by project, problem by problem basis, we need to be able to flex because if we can't, the world will leave us behind as individual leaders. And so to me, that is the future of work is flexible. The future of leadership is flexible. And so the one thing I would say beyond thinking about being flexible, realizing that it's important, perhaps buying the book, the thing that I would say is this, that all of us can do this. Even if you're saying, Kevin, I'm too busy to do those things you're talking about, you can do this thing. And this thing is to look at your world through a leadership lens, which simply means that as you're experiencing the world, think about what decisions leaders are making or not making, what they're doing or not doing, what they're communicating or not communicating, and say, what from that could I learn that I might apply, or what from that do I observe that I would choose not to apply? But you can do that in watching the leaders around you, in watching your neighbors, in watching a movie, in watching the news, in reading a book, fictional or non-fictional. And so when we look at the world through the lens of leadership, we give ourselves the opportunity to see things in ways we haven't seen them before. And once we see things in new ways, we have the chance to act in new ways.
So, what is your next milestone?
In terms of, having a book that just came out at the end of March, the path for us to continue to promote that book and having the chance to be on the show is certainly a piece of that. But as we're continuing to do the work of helping leaders take advantage of, learn from the ideas in this book and the training that we're building around it, I see that as the next milestone, but it's more of a journey than a milestone.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Kevin.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Sheila.
And thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Milestone Moments in Business and Leadership. Until next time.